All right, so we're going to talk about experimental design, specifically variables in an experiment. And so the overall definition of variable is something that can change in experiments, right? So I should move this over. So it can change in an experiment. And so let's think about, if you're growing a plant, what are some variables that you could change so that the plant would grow faster? And so you can think like sunlight, water, fertilizer, bigger pot, whatever you decide. But we're going to do an experiment, like we'll make a hypothesis. So let's make a hypothesis about amount of water. So if I increase water to the plant, then the plant will grow taller because water is essential for growth. All right, so a variable is something that can change. There's different types of variables when we run an experiment. And so as we go through the definition of the different types of variables, I want you to keep it, the example we'll continue to use is water, increasing water to a plant, causing the plant to grow taller, or we're seeing if it's going to grow taller. That's what we believe. All right, so in our experiment, we always have four types of variables, or four things that we need to have. We have an independent variable. That's a variable that you can change, so that I change it. So it's something that the person who's experimenting changes. And so in this case, what is it that we're changing? Well, we can't make a plant grow taller, but what we could do is we can increase the water, right? So the increase in the water, or the amount of water, is our independent variable. I'm going to go ahead and so that's our independent variable. It's the thing that we can change. The dependent variable is the one that responds to the independent variable, right? So like the dependent variable is a result of the independent variable. So if I add water, what do we think could happen? Well, we can check the growth. So the growth of the plant will be the dependent variable. All right, so those are our two main variables. If we increase water, that's something we can change. And then if we have growth, that's the dependent variable. That's the result that we're looking for. If we change this, then we hopefully have more growth. However, there can be multiple variables that can change, that can affect growth, right? Like sunlight or something like that. Well, in our experiment, though, we only want to check for one variable, and that's our independent variable. So everything else we want to keep the same. So for example, the amount of sunlight we want to keep the same. Because if we change the amount of sunlight, now we don't know if it's because the plant is growing more because of the sunlight or more because of the water that we've changed. So we want to keep some things constant, or controlled is what we call it. So amount of sunlight, what else can you think? Maybe the amount of fertilizer, amount of water that you add, that kind of stuff. And then the control is something as a comparison. So usually it's like you need to know if the plant is growing taller than what it would normally do. So the control would be maybe like a normal amount of water. You need to know what like normal growth is before you know that, adding more water will increase growth. Well, it's going to increase growth over what baseline? And so our control would be the normal amount of water. Okay, so these are the four types of variables. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and read some of these. Oops, let me go back and let's see if I can click on this. Cool, so I'm just going to do the first with you, but I would like you on your own to do the next two. So this is a symptoms variable worksheet. It says Smithers thinks that a special juice will increase the productivity of workers. He'll make his workers work faster. He creates 3 groups of 50 workers each and assigns each group the same task, to staple sets of papers. So group 1 drinks 100 milliliters of the special juice, group 2 drinks 50 milliliters of the special juice, and then group 3 is not given the special juice while they work. Okay? Alright, after an hour, Smithers counts how many sets of papers each group stapled. Alright, so if we look at this, Smithers is the person in charge of the experiment. And what does he change? Well, the independent variable is what I change. I being the experimenter. Well, he changes whether they get special juice or not, right? So the amount of special juice. And what is he hoping that the special juice will able to, like, by giving them special juice, what is the result that he's hoping for? Or what depends on the special juice? Well, what is he's seeing if productivity will increase? So he's looking for productivity. Well, what's the controlled variable? What is constant? What is he keeping the same? And the constant here is, well, each group has 50 workers, right? And they always get, so they have the same number of, remember the constant is what you want to keep the same so it doesn't affect the result, right? So the constant is like same number of workers, right? They all get 50 workers. They all get to work, an hour? So everybody works 1 hour, so the amount of time. All right. Now, before we do number 4, I also want to know that there needs to be a control group. Remember, the control group is what you're comparing everything off of. So if you look at group 1, group 2, or group 3, which one is the control group here? Which one is kind of the normal? Well, remember, the thing he wants to change is the special juice. He wants to see the special juice increases productivity. But if you'll notice, group 3 is not given the special juice. And so therefore, that's our control group, is no special juice, because that's kind of like our baseline. That's what we start with, right? And so that's what we're comparing everything off of. Notice the control group can do about 2,000. And then as you add more special juice, it actually lowers the amount of paper stapled. So actually the productivity decreases. So number 4 says, what should Smithers' conclusion be? Well, it's the fact that his conclusion is if you give them special juice, the productivity goes down. Try the next 2, and then there's also homework that you can work on. Okay?